If you only follow tennis through major sports broadcasts in the United States, you would think the next generation of the WTA revolves entirely around 2 or 3 familiar names. But there is a strange truth being hidden right now. A true technical master is quietly dismantling her opponents in 2026 without a single celebratory headline. You have to ask yourself why the massive sports networks like ESPN are completely silent about a player with such a flawless game. It makes absolutely no sense. We are watching someone execute perfect baseline strategies against top-ranked opponents, and the media treats her like she does not even exist. You open your sports apps and see the exact same faces being promoted day after day. You hear the same analyst repeating the identical talking points about power servers and dramatic rivalries. Meanwhile, Eala is systematically taking apart seasoned veterans with a level of precision that we have not seen in years. This is not just a simple oversight by lazy journalists sitting in a production truck. The silence is deafening, and it points to a much deeper issue within the sports entertainment complex. There is a specific reason why nobody is talking about Eala before this incredible masterclass season. I am going to show you exactly how the tennis media machine operates behind closed doors. They do not want you to see the real mechanics of who gets screen time and who gets completely buried under the algorithm. When a player is this good and still remains invisible, you know the system is broken. The invisibility surrounding her is not a mere coincidence. It is a deliberate strategy tied to an outdated operating system. From a professional standpoint, the playing style of Eala in 2026 is a peak performance that every coach wants their students to watch on repeat. But why is someone who can hit balls with such millimeter precision completely left out of the spotlight? To understand what we are missing, you first need to look at what exactly makes her game a true masterclass. We are not talking about raw, unpolished power or wild athleticism that looks great on a 10-second highlight reel. We are looking at a player who constructs points like a chess grandmaster. When you watch her rally tolerance metrics, you see something genuinely terrifying for the rest of the tour. She is winning long extended baseline exchanges at a rate that completely dwarfs the tour average. The modern WTA game is obsessed with first strike tennis. Everyone wants to end the point in 3 shots or less. Eala flips that entire philosophy completely upside down. Her court positioning is mathematically perfect. She takes time away from the fastest players in the world, simply by stepping inside the baseline, exactly when they expect her to retreat. She absorbs heavy pace and redirects it into the deep corners, with absolute zero panic. This level of tactical maturity is incredibly rare for a 21-year-old playing on the biggest stages. The fact that mainstream sports coverage is actively ignoring this level of talent is a massive loss for any true tennis fan. It completely distorts your understanding of the current competitive landscape. You are only being fed a highly filtered version of reality, where the loudest players get the most attention. Think about the massive implications of this media blackout. Millions of casual fans are tuning in and assuming that the highest level of tennis is just about hitting the ball as hard as humanly possible. They are entirely missing the subtle geometry and the extreme mental endurance required to play the way Eala plays. She forces her opponents to play extra balls until their lungs burn and their legs literally give out on the clay. You can see the pure panic in their eyes during the third set when they realize she is never going to miss an unforced error. Her backhand down the line is one of the cleanest and most devastating weapons on the entire tour right now. She uses it to rip the court wide open exactly when the pressure is at its absolute highest peak. Yet if you turn on the television during a major tournament, you will barely see a single replay of her brilliant winners. The sports networks would rather show you a dramatic argument with a chair umpire than a perfectly executed tactical adjustment. They prioritize cheap drama over elite shot-making and brilliant strategy. Imagine spending your entire life perfecting a craft only to be ignored because you refuse to manufacture fake controversies for the cameras. This creates a deeply frustrating situation for anyone who actually appreciates the pure essence of the sport. You have a generational talent unfolding right in front of our eyes, and the people in charge of broadcasting are simply looking the other way. You start to wonder what other incredible athletic stories are being purposely kept off your screen just because they do not fit the traditional flashy media mold. It makes you question everything you see on the front page of those massive sports websites. If you feel that same intense frustration and want to uncover the real tactical brilliance happening in tennis right now, then make sure you become part of our community so we can keep exposing the truth together. To find the answer, we have to peel back the glamorous wrapper of the major tournaments and step into a much harsher reality. Modern sports media does not sell pure tennis. They sell sensational stories. That is the exact breaking point, causing someone completely focused on perfecting her craft like Eala to be pushed deep into the shadows. Let us look directly at how the media algorithm actually works in the year 2026. The networks have massive broadcasting contracts, and they need immediate return on their massive financial investments. They track viewer engagement metrics second by second. If a player throws a racket into the stands or screams at a line, judge the clip goes viral instantly on every single platform. Millions of rapid clicks translate directly into massive advertising revenue for the executives sitting in corner television offices. The entire digital ecosystem actively rewards chaotic behavior and systematically punishes quiet technical excellence. Think deeply about the players ranked exactly around the top 30 right now. Look at the highly uneven screen time distribution across the major sports networks. You have completely average players who win the exact same amount of early round matches, but they completely dominate the daily news cycles simply because their press conferences are deliberately controversial. Eala gives the sports media absolutely nothing to spin into a cheap sensational headline. She simply walks onto the competitive court, plays absolutely flawless geometric tennis, shakes the hand of the umpire, and quietly leaves the arena. Is it entirely possible that playing a perfectly clean and highly technical game actually makes her too boring for television executives who are completely desperate for cheap ratings? It is incredibly frustrating to realize that pure athletic merit is no longer enough to secure the spotlight on the main global stage. The major athletic brands and corporate sponsors are constantly looking for loud, dramatic personalities who can sell expensive lifestyle apparel on massive social media platforms. They are not looking for a silent technical assassin who spends 12 grueling hours a day perfecting a slice backhand in the extreme afternoon heat. They want digital influencers who just happen to play tennis on the weekends. Eala is a pure, unadulterated tennis player who flatly refuses to play the digital influencer game. This creates a massive and glaring disconnect between her actual lethal skill level and her perceived commercial value by the corporate sponsors sitting in the luxury boxes. You can sit and watch a grueling 3-hour match where she systematically breaks down a top 10 seed with brilliant angles and relentless footwork. Then you turn on the official post-match analysis show, and the highly paid panel spends 10 straight minutes discussing what the losing player wore to the stadium during the morning warm-up. It feels like a massive deliberate insult to the history of the sport itself. You start to see exactly how the broadcasting system is heavily rigged against pure tacticians. Every single time she advances to another major quarterfinal without a single passing mention on the primetime television highlights, the tension builds even higher among true fans. Fans who actually understand the complex mechanics of the game are left screaming at their television screens in pure disbelief. They see the sheer brilliance of her baseline movement and the incredible depth of her heavy returns. Yet the studio commentators actually talk over her most crucial match points to discuss completely unrelated personal drama happening on a different continent. How long can a massive global system actively ignore one of its most lethal competitors before the whole fabricated television narrative completely collapses? But just when the wealthy establishment thought they could continue ignoring this young rising star indefinitely, an unforeseen twist completely shattered the entire competitive landscape. Everyone blindly assumes that being completely forgotten by the sports media is a tragic failure for a young rising athlete. The exact opposite is profoundly true. This heavy, suffocating silence is actually the most dangerous tactical weapon Eala currently holds in her entire professional arsenal. Let me completely reframe how you look at her spectacular and terrifying season. This total digital invisibility is not a weakness or a tragic marketing failure. It is a perfectly constructed velvet curtain. In the modern high-stakes era of professional tennis, every single elite player relies heavily on advanced video analysis to survive. Their highly paid international coaches spend thousands of lonely hours breaking down high-altitude drone footage and extreme slow-motion replays of their upcoming opponents. They track exactly where a specific player serves on critical break points down to the absolute inch. They carefully map out the exact spin rate and trajectory of a forehand when the opposing player is under immense physical pressure in the third set. Millions of dollars are spent annually on advanced data analytics to completely rule the sport and mathematically predict every single future movement on the court. But what exactly happens when the media completely refuses to broadcast your early round matches? What happens when the major sports networks do not even bother sending a single handheld camera crew to your intense private practice sessions? You become a complete and total ghost in the analytical machine. Eala and her brilliant coaching team have essentially turned this insulting media blackout into an absolute masterstroke of tactical psychological warfare. She is operating entirely off the digital radar of every single major academy in the world. By the time she finally steps onto the massive stadium court against a highly favored top 5 seed, the opponent has practically zero high-definition footage to study in the locker room. It is exactly like a legendary martial artist training deep in the remote mountains, completely hidden from the rest of the civilized world. When she finally descends into the bright, deafening arena, nobody knows what new lethal techniques she has perfected during the long, grueling offseason. I really want to know if you saw this massive tactical twist coming at all. Do you think staying deliberately hidden from the flashing media cameras is actually a smarter long-term strategy than constantly chasing cheap viral fame on the internet? Drop your exact thoughts in the comments right now, because we are watching a brilliant psychological operation unfold live before our eyes. The elite veteran players are stepping onto the fast hard courts, completely blind to her current physical and tactical form. They fully expect a standard predictable baseline game, because they have absolutely not seen the subtle and deadly evolutions she added over the last 6 intensive months. They do not know a single thing about the devastating disguised drop shot she perfected, because no sports television channel ever aired the minor tournament matches where she used it. This complete lack of proper scouting material forces the greatest and most experienced players in the entire world to figure out her complex geometric patterns in real time while they are actively losing crucial points. It completely short-circuits their meticulous daily preparation and absolutely shatters their fragile mental confidence. They look over at their expensive coaching box in absolute pure panic, because the thick binder of analytical data they studied all morning is completely useless against a living, breathing ghost. The silence that the massive media corporations created as an intentional insult has been masterfully weaponized into the ultimate competitive advantage on the professional tour. When the top-seeded players finally wake up and realize the extreme danger she truly poses, it is far too late for them to find a viable solution. The confusion of the opponents on the court is the absolute strongest proof of this strategy. When they step onto the hard courts, they realize they are facing a completely alien tactical system without any social media analysis videos to warn them. You can literally see the panic spreading across their faces after just 3 or 4 games. Let us look closely at the actual match data from the first half of this season, because the numbers tell a terrifying story. Elite players who normally operate like well-oiled machines are suddenly falling apart. We are talking about top 10 seeds who usually commit maybe 15 unforced errors in a 2-set match. Against Eala, those exact same players are suddenly committing 30 or even 40 bizarre mistakes. They are swinging wildly at standard rally balls. They are overhitting simple put-away shots into the back fence. You have to ask why these seasoned veterans are suddenly playing like nervous amateurs. It is simply because their brains are desperately searching for familiar patterns that do not exist. Their muscle memory is entirely calibrated to the standard aggressive baseliners they play every single week. Eala is intentionally feeding them a completely different geometric puzzle, and they have zero advanced preparation to solve it. This brings us to the most incredible technical insight of her entire masterclass season. This is the exact secret weapon that every single major television network completely missed while they were busy filming the crowd. Pay very close attention to how she actively manipulates the hidden rhythm of a high-speed baseline exchange. Almost every elite player on the professional tour hits the ball with a very predictable metronomic rhythm. You hear the exact same sound over and over again. They just hit harder and harder until someone finally breaks under the heavy physical pressure. Eala refuses to play that brutal physical game. Instead, she utilizes a completely disguised slice mechanism right in the absolute middle of a heavy topspin exchange. She will trade 4 massive cross-court backhands at maximum speed. The opponent falls into that fast rhythm and starts leaning backward to absorb the next heavy blow. Right at that exact millisecond, Eala completely kills the pace of the ball dead on the racket strings. She floats a low biting slice that barely clears the net tape and completely stops moving when it hits the ground. The physical reaction from the opponent is almost comical to watch. Their brain registers the sudden massive drop in speed, but their feet are already moving in the wrong direction. Their entire biomechanical chain is totally ruined by a simple change of pace. They desperately lunge forward and usually pop the ball up perfectly into the middle of the court. Eala then casually steps inside the baseline and crushes a clean winner down the line before the opponent can even recover their balance. It is a completely invisible trap set with absolute malicious intent. It happened so fast and so smoothly that the casual fans in the stadium barely even register what just occurred. The lazy television commentators just call it an unforced error by the opponent. They completely fail to recognize that Eala actively forced that error, using pure spatial geometry and rhythm disruption. She is playing an entirely different sport out there. She is playing physical chess while everyone else is just swinging heavy hammers. Now that this heavy curtain of secrecy has finally been pulled back, a massive question is raised for the future of the entire tour. So the real reason nobody talked about Eala before this incredible run was never a failure on her part. It was simply the perfect quiet preparation for the most spectacular athletic overthrow modern tennis has ever witnessed. The massive sports media conglomerates simply could not comprehend a young prodigy who deliberately chose the lonely path of pure technical dominance over cheap digital fame. They arrogantly thought they completely controlled exactly who gets to be a global superstar and who gets left behind in the dust. Eala is actively proving them completely wrong with every single match she wins. Her breathtaking masterclass in 2026 is rapidly establishing a brand new standard for the entire sport. She is loudly reminding everyone that the true value of an athletic champion is finally returning to what they actually do between the white-painted lines. It is no longer just about the dramatic press conference headlines or the heavily sponsored social media posts. It is fundamentally about the pure, beautiful geometry of the court and the absolute strategic destruction of the opponent standing across the net. She built her massive empire in absolute total silence, while the rest of the world was distracted by manufactured drama. Now the entire tennis establishment is forced to sit down and listen to the deafening roar of her racket string. The algorithms and the television executives are finally scrambling to catch up to a reality she built without their permission. Will this flawless technical game and brilliant stealth strategy allow her to completely shatter the heavy monopoly of the giants and carve her name permanently into international tennis history? Make sure you subscribe to the channel right now so you do not miss the exact answer in our next deep dive tactical analysis.